Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reacting to my second Chill Scares video for you guys, and this was titled Final Photos with Unnerving Backstories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road to the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
In February 2015, 18-year-old Dalen Pua went to visit his grandmother Martha Bear in Waianae, Hawaii. Once there, he mentioned to his grandma he was planning on going hiking in Mona Valley Park in the morning. According to Martha, Dalen mentioned he was going to climb the Haiku Stairs, also known to the locals as the Stairway to Heaven. Consisting of over 3,900 steps that ascend the Kohulahu mountain range, the Stairway to Heaven was once a popular tourist hotspot until it was officially closed to the public in 1980 due to the dangerous conditions of the climb.
I wouldn't doubt it, because if I was climbing that, I'd probably be like losing my breath and wanting to pass out and probably fall over the railing and slide down the mountain. But anyway, let's continue on with this story and see what happens next.
Still, many daring hikers over the decades continue to climb the legendary staircase for the thrill of the challenge, and it's not uncommon for the police and fire department to have to rescue and arrest lost hikers who realize they bit off more than they could chew once they were at the top of the staircase. When Dalen told his grandmother about his plans, she warned him that it was illegal and tried to stop him, but he was determined to climb the Stairway to Heaven and didn't listen to his grandma. On the evening before the climb, he posted to Facebook with the caption, "Stairway to Heaven, hiking this insane hike tomorrow, wish me luck." His friends quickly jumped into the comments to remind him that a recent mudslide had damaged an entire section of the staircase, making it even more dangerous to attempt the hike. But the very next morning, Dalen took a bus to Mona Valley Park and began the hike, documenting the start of his journey on Facebook with the caption, "And the hike begins, #haiku."
This boy should have listened to his grandma. If it's closed and police don't want nobody going up there, and if they caught you, you'll be arrested. Somebody on his Facebook said that it got damaged because of a mudslide, then that should have told you not to try and climb this massive staircase. But nope, there's a lot of people that I like to call thrill seekers that want to just do extreme dangerous stuff like this, even though you might face some consequences. Because imagine you go up there and then you slipped and fell to your death. Then the government is going to really push for getting them stairs taken down. But I got a feeling that he hiked up there and then slipped and fell. But I don't know yet. So let's just continue on with the story and figure out what happened to him.
At the beginning of the hike, he sent some pictures of the mountain range to his friends. At around 11 a.m. that day, he sent this last image, after which he became unreachable on all communication channels. His friends tried to get in touch with him, but it soon became clear that something had gone wrong during the hike. The next day, Dalen was reported missing, leading to a citywide search involving the Honolulu Police Department, the Fire Department, the U.S. Navy, several drone pilots, and local volunteers. From the moment the search began, the authorities suspected he had successfully climbed the Stairway to Heaven, but was unable to come down safely due to the treacherous conditions. On the first day of the search, it rained heavily over Honolulu, making the climb to the top almost impossible for the authorities. After 4 days of looking for Dalen with dogs, helicopters, and infrared cameras, the search was called off. But later that very same day, 2 hikers who were climbing a nearby ridge claimed they heard someone screaming for help, and the fire department decided to extend the search another day. But on Tuesday, March 3rd, after days of fruitless investigation, the search was permanently suspended. Still, Dalen's friends and family continued to search the area, posting his pictures everywhere online, and even starting a GoFundMe campaign that raised over $15,000. After weeks with no convincing clues or even a trace of what happened to Dalen, several theories started circulating on the island. While many people claimed he probably fell down the side of the mountain on his way up, others speculated that something much more sinister had happened to Dalen while climbing the Stairway to Heaven. In the last image he sent to his friends, you can see the head of a man popping up behind the bushes next to the stairway. While the skeptics alleged that the figure was probably just a bunch of leaves and branches and a trick of the light, the Honolulu Police Department decided there was enough evidence in the image to issue an alert and request anyone from the public who had information on the mysterious man behind the bushes to come forward. It now appeared as if Dalen's disappearance had turned into a criminal investigation, with many people believing that the man in the bushes was a stalker who had seen the teenage hiker's Facebook posts and followed him up the mountain to attack him. Some Reddit users thought they recognized the guy, with one user mentioning that the guy in the picture was a good friend of his and that he had nothing to do with the disappearance. But when asked how he could recognize his friend in the image if the man's face was barely even visible, he didn't answer, and nobody's statements on the matter have been verified as true.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. If it's your friend, how in the world could you recognize him when the picture was kind of blurry? I mean, I would have thought that it was just leaves and twigs and branches. But there's a lot of red flags going up in the air. But right now it's already sounding more creepier than it was already.
Almost 9 years after his disappearance, the case of Dalen Pua remains a mystery. In 2021, the Honolulu City Council voted unanimously to remove the stairs, awarding a $2.5 million demolition contract to Nakoa companies. The decision was pretty controversial, but in the end, it was decided that it was the best choice. Unfortunately, we'll still probably never know what happened to Dalen Pua on that day in February 2015, and whether or not the man in his last photo had anything to do with it.
Well, I'm glad they removed the stairs so nobody else would try to hike up that mountain, but that's scary to think that someone might have been following this boy and he didn't know when he took the photo. But will we ever find out what happened to him? Hopefully so, but I'm already guessing it's already a murder. And this guy right here in the photo is the murderer. But hopefully if he's still alive, somebody might be able to find him and bring him back to his family. But if not, that'll be disturbing to find on the news that they found his body somewhere down the trees in the mountain on that island. And again, his grandmother warned him not to go up there since authorities were arresting people for sneaking in. And people had accidents up there too, but he didn't listen. If he had just went into the park and not tried to hike the stairway to heaven, then he would be still around and not missing. Let's get on to photo number 2.
This story takes place in Sugar Land, an affluent suburb of Houston, Texas, and one of the safest cities in the U.S. On December 10th, 2003, Ken and Trisha Whitaker went out to dinner at Papadu Seafood Kitchen to celebrate their son Thomas's graduation from Sam Houston State University. That night, Thomas, or Bart as his friends and family called him, got a $4,000 Rolex watch as a gift from his parents. Over dinner, the family laughed, talked, and teased each other like the happy family they appeared to be on the surface. At one point during the meal, Ken asked his wife and sons to get together for a picture. The image shows Trisha and her 2 sons, Kevin and Thomas, smiling for the camera, and at first glance, everything seems pretty much perfect. Just after 8 p.m., the Whitaker family left the restaurant and headed back home. As they walked up the steps to their house, Bart stayed back to get something from his car, and his dad waited for him. As soon as Kevin opened the door, a man in a ski mask held up a gun and opened fire on the family. Within a few seconds, Kevin, Trisha, Kent, and Bart were lying on the floor with gunshot wounds. As soon as the shots rang out, a neighbor called 911, and even though he was injured, Bart did the same as the attacker ran out the back door. When the responding officers arrived, they found 19-year-old Kevin Whitaker dead on the floor. Trisha was immediately airlifted to the hospital, but sadly didn't survive. Miraculously, Kent survived a gunshot wound to the chest, while Bart got away with a single bullet wound to the arm. Initially, the authorities called the crime a burglary gone wrong. Suspiciously, the alleged burglar left behind the gun he used to commit the crime, but the palm print on the gun didn't yield any useful information. As it was later revealed, the gun had been taken from the Whitaker family's upstairs gun safe, which made it clear that whoever committed the gruesome crime knew the layout of the house before entering. The detectives on the case soon realized that this was no ordinary burglary, as no valuables had been stolen, and the family's drawers and closets seemed to have been neatly pulled out by someone who had been a little too careful not to destroy anything.
Yeah, that's really suspicious. You would think that if somebody walked up to the door to rob you guys at gunpoint, he would have been asking where the safe is and where your valuables are hidden, and he'll go to it. But if you guys try to put up a fight, he will shoot you, not shoot all the family members down to the ground and then just leave without taking anything. Man, I hate that one of the brothers and the mom got killed while the dad and other son survived. But it makes you wonder if the person knows the layout of the house would have been a family friend of theirs. Who knows? But let me stop rambling here and see what Chill and Scares also found out about this case.
The day after the murders, detectives discovered that Bart was hiding something from his parents. Not only had he not graduated from university, but he was actually a freshman on probation for not attending his classes and had a 1.4 GPA. About a week after the horrifying incident, Kent and Bart went to Kevin and Trish's funeral, which was attended by over 1,000 Sugarland residents who had never even heard of such a brutal crime being committed in their city. Several law enforcement officers were at the funeral, not so much to mourn the victims, but rather to watch Bart Whitaker closely. The night before the funeral, a former roommate of Bart named Adam Hipp had gone to the police station and made a shocking revelation. According to the police report, Adam mentioned to the cops that one day in 2001, Bart had approached him and told him about an elaborate plan to murder his family in order to inherit their house and about $1 million in life insurance money. Adam claimed that Bart had even offered him a cut of the inheritance money if he agreed to kill his family framed through a burglary gone wrong and shoot him in the arm in the process to make it look more believable. The more details Adam revealed about the chilling conversation, the more the cops realized that the plan Bart had talked about with his roommate was eerily similar to the events that took place on that fateful night in December 2003. During Adam's interrogation, the name of two more of Bart's college friends were brought up, Chris Brashear and Stephen Champagne. Chris and Stephen worked at the same country club as Bart, and when the cops tested their DNA and sent samples, they found a perfect match for what was found at the crime scene. As the detectives closed in on the suspects, Bart realized he was in trouble. One night, about 7 months after the murders, he told his father he was going out to the club, and he never came back. The authorities looked everywhere for him, but it seemed he had just disappeared without a trace. With Bart nowhere to be found, the cops focused their efforts on Chris and Stephen. Eventually, Stephen cracked under the pressure of the interrogation and admitted that he had been the getaway driver on the night of the crime. Chris had been the gunman, and Bart had orchestrated the entire thing. Stephen even led the police to a bag that had been thrown off of a bridge into Conroe Lake, which contained pretty damning physical evidence, including two-way radios, water bottles, and ammunition that matched the shell casings at the scene. Almost 2 years after the murder, Stephen and Chris were arrested, but Bart was still nowhere to be found. Unbeknownst to the police, Bart had started a completely new life in Mexico. He had a small apartment, a job in a furniture store, and even a girlfriend. Disturbingly, it was later revealed that Bart had lied to his girlfriend's family and spun a very convincing tale about his past, alleging that he had gotten shot in the shoulder while serving in Afghanistan. A year and a half after the murders, a man named Rudy Rios called the cops and confessed that about a year earlier, Bart paid him $3,000 to let him assume Rios' identity and flee to Mexico. In September 2005, Bart was arrested in Mexico, extradited, and charged with the murder of his mother and brother. As it was later discovered, he had tried to carry out the plan on several occasions with other roommates and friends, but something always seemed to get in the way. In an interview with ABC News, Bart claimed that when he was planning the killings, he was operating on autopilot and about as close to numb as a human being can get. After the trial, Bart was sentenced to death, a decision his father lobbied against for years. Kent claimed that having his son executed would only make him a victim once again, and that he had suffered enough. In February 2018, just 40 minutes before Bart's scheduled execution by lethal injection, the governor decided to spare his life. As of 2024, Bart is still in prison, where he will remain for the rest of his life. Miraculously, Ken has forgiven his son and went on to remarry and even write a book about his experience called Murder by Family: The Incredible True Story of a Son's Treachery and a Father's Forgiveness. For many people, the most haunting aspect of this whole case is the fact that in this last picture of the apparently happy family together at dinner, Bart knew very well that if everything went according to plan, his entire family around him would be dead less than half an hour later.
I'm in complete shock right now. Nobody would have thought that one of their sons was scheming a plan together just to have his brother and mom and dad killed just so he can inherit their money and house. I'm glad that his roommates came forward, and hopefully they get a lighter sentence than this guy got. But I'm shocked that the father forgave him, because I would be disowning my kid if I had any, if they did something like this. But I can understand completely that he's his only child now, since his other one was killed with his wife, and forgive him for all the things he did. But I'm also happy that the father remarried. He got the governor to get him away from the death sentence, and his father forgave him. But let's just hope the man upstairs can forgive him too, because killing your family just for insurance money is not only wrong, but selfish and sinful. I hope this guy realizes that while he's still behind bars.
Mora Murray was born on May 4th, 1982, in Brockton, Massachusetts, and was the youngest child in a family of 7. She grew up with her siblings in Hanson, a small suburb of Massachusetts. Growing up, she was gifted athletically and academically, competing at a high school level in basketball, running, and multiple other sports. An award-winning cross-country runner, Mora graduated at the top of her class at Whitman-Hanson High School, after which she decided to go to West Point and follow in her older sister's footsteps. But 2 years into West Point, she decided to transfer to the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where she went into nursing. In 2003, she did something pretty unexpected that stood out as unusual to everyone who knew her. In November of that year, she admitted to using a stolen credit card to order takeout from multiple different restaurants. Although the charges were eventually dropped thanks to her good behavior, the fraud marked the beginning of a series of incidents that completely changed the course of her life. One night, in early February 2004, Mora was working at her campus security job and decided to call her sister Kathleen. After talking about Kathleen's troubled relationship with her fiancé for a while, Mora allegedly broke down in tears at around 10:30 p.m. while still on the job. When her supervisor arrived at her desk, Mora seemed completely zoned out, just completely out of it. When asked what was wrong, she only responded with the words, "my sister." For 13 years, the details of the conversation between Mora and Kathleen remained a mystery, but in 2017, it was finally revealed what had upset Mora so much. On that evening in 2004, Kathleen had been discharged from an alcohol rehab facility, after which her fiancé had taken her to a liquor store, where she unfortunately relapsed. On February 7th, 2004, Mora's father went to visit her in Amherst, and after going car shopping and to dinner with one of Mora's friends, Mora dropped him back off at his hotel. That same evening, she borrowed his car to go to a dorm party at her campus, and at 2:30 a.m. on February 8th, she smashed into a guardrail in her father's Toyota on the way back to his hotel. Even though she almost totaled the car, there are no records of sobriety testing being conducted that evening. She spent the night at the hotel with her dad, and the next morning she went back to Connecticut in a rental car. On Monday, February 9th, Mora used her computer to look for directions to Burlington, Vermont. She texted her boyfriend to tell him she loved him, and on the afternoon of Monday, February 9th, she emailed the nursing school faculty, informing them that she would be away from school for a while due to a death in her family. But it was later revealed that nobody had died in her family. That same afternoon, she texted her boyfriend again, promising him that they would talk later, and made some phone calls to rent an apartment in Vermont. At around 3:30 p.m., she drove away from her school's campus in her black Saturn sedan, which she had stuffed with clothes, textbooks, and toiletries. 10 minutes later, she withdrew about $300 from an ATM, which is where this image taken from the ATM security camera was captured, the final image ever taken of Mora Murray. After this, she bought $40 worth of alcohol at a nearby liquor store and got back in her car to drive away from Amherst. A little after 4 p.m., she checked her voicemail, and that was the last time she used her phone. Shortly after 7 p.m., a Woodsville, New Hampshire resident called the cops to inform them of a car accident on a sharp turn on the highway near her house. She claimed in the 911 call that she saw a glowing light inside the car, possibly from a cell phone. A few minutes later, a school bus driver drove past the car and saw a young woman walking next to it. She didn't seem to be injured, and when he asked her if she wanted him to call the police, she claimed she had already called AAA, but records show she never made that call. At 7:43 p.m., the bus driver called the cops anyway, and this is where things started to get a little strange. Another Woodsville resident driving home from work claimed she saw a police car parked right in front of Mora's car at about 7:37 p.m. She claimed she didn't see anyone inside the car and continued home. Strangely, this statement contradicts the police department log, which mentions the cops arrived at the scene at about 7:46 p.m. According to the police department, when an officer with the Harborville Police Department arrived at the scene, he didn't see anyone inside. The car had apparently smashed against a tree on the driver's side, causing both airbags to deploy. Upon inspecting the inside of the vehicle, he found stains of red wine all over the car, as well as an empty beer bottle in the back seat. The only things missing from the vehicle were Mora's debit cards, credit cards, and cell phone, which haven't been used since that night in February 2004. Another resident returning home that night claimed he saw a woman matching Mora's description walking quickly down the side of the road, but failed to report it to the police since he didn't know she was a missing person until several weeks later. The next day, a search was launched for Mora, but the cops couldn't find any clues indicating where she could have gone. As the authorities continued searching for her, Mora was labeled as possibly suicidal, and her friends, boyfriend, and family members were interrogated. Unfortunately, even though Mora had clearly shown an intention to go to Vermont, the case was only handled by Massachusetts state authorities for 10 days after the disappearance, after which the FBI finally stepped in. But by then, it was too late, and Mora had seemingly disappeared into thin air. During the investigation, several theories regarding Mora's disappearance started to emerge. Although the cops initially claimed she had been suicidal, the evidence found in her car seemed to indicate otherwise, as it seemed unlikely that a person bent on taking her own life would even bother to pack toothpaste and teeth whitener in her vehicle. It's also possible that she was so terrified of getting into serious legal trouble if she was found intoxicated at the crash site, especially after her recent credit card fraud charges, that she ran away to Canada by hitchhiking. This would also free her from the drama going on in her personal life back home. But it's pretty much impossible to confirm a theory like this. After the disappearance, Mora's father alleged that she had been abducted by a local kidnapper, while several members of the public started pointing fingers at the bus driver who had failed to stay with Mora until help arrived. Suspiciously, that same bus driver moved to Florida with his wife a few months after the incident. Still, despite the amount of theories that have surfaced for the past 20 years, authorities haven't made any significant breaks in the case, and will likely never know what happened to Mora Murray.
Okay, I'm sorry I did not stop it and talked about some of the details that he was just describing, but I wanted to get the whole case in my head. First, using somebody's credit card just to order takeout is wrong. I'm surprised if she's a good person. Why would she do that? 2, if she gets a call about her sister relapsing from her rehab facility, I mean, I'll be upset too. I was thinking her sister probably was killed, or she wanted to go on that trip to Vermont to find her. Who knows? But then you tell your nursing instructors that you're not going to be in class for a while, and you just pack up and leave without taking your boyfriend with you. Very strange. And why would somebody go to a liquor store and buy a bunch of liquor just to drive all the way down there? Unless she was thinking about killing herself. But they said it didn't seem like that because she packed toothpaste and teeth whitener and some other stuff. And that ain't the case. But where did she go afterwards after she wrecked her car? Who knows? Maybe the bus driver that was trying to stop her kidnapped her, or she hitchhiked to Canada. Who knows? This is one strange case. Hopefully they do find her, but at this point she probably lost it in the mine and fell in a river somewhere. But that is sad that there's a lot of people in this world that relapse into this mental madness state and they go crazy and leave town. And then they go missing. All she had to do was tell her boyfriend her exact plan on what she wanted to do and her family. Then she wouldn't have been reported missing. But hopefully they do find her. But I figured at this point everybody probably just declared her deceased by now, which is sad. But any other clues come up about this case? I hope they help find out what happened to her.
Ronaldo Dasa was a councilman in Manila, Philippines, who was known for cracking down on local crime, specifically gang activity during his term. On New Year's Eve 2010, the 35-year-old councilman asked his family to wake him up before midnight so he could celebrate the new year with them. Shortly before midnight, the family went out on the street to join in on the New Year's celebration with their neighbors by lighting firecrackers and counting down to midnight. At one point in the evening, Ronaldo asked his wife, mother-in-law, and daughter to pose for a picture next to their car. Just as he stepped back to take the picture, a man with a baseball cap approached the family from behind the car. Shockingly, right as he pressed the button to take the picture, the man in the baseball cap pointed a gun at him and opened fire, shooting the councilman in the chest with his .45 caliber revolver before fleeing the scene. Surrounded by the sound of fireworks, the family didn't hear the gunshot, but saw Ronaldo collapse on the street with blood flowing out of his chest. As soon as the police arrived, they rushed him to the hospital, where he was unfortunately pronounced dead. However, thanks to the image in question, which was somehow taken just in time to act as perfect evidence, an arrest was made very quickly after the crime. The killer was immediately identified as Michael Gonzalez, and 2 of his accomplices were also arrested in the days following the murder. According to the victim's mother-in-law, the man in the tank top shown in the image was acting as Michael's lookout and was also arrested. It was later determined that the crime had probably been carried out as revenge, as Ronaldo had ordered the arrest of Michael and his accomplices for car theft in 2010. Apparently, the criminals were out on bail that night and decided to exact revenge before being thrown back into prison. Unfortunately, nothing will ever be the same for Ronaldo's family, but at the very least, the picture was enough to capture his killers and bring the councilman's loved ones a sense of closure.
Well, for one thing, I am mad that these guys made bail. And while they were out, they had to go ahead and shoot the councilman that ordered for their arrest. I'm sorry that his loved one to see him get shot on New Year's. Justice was served, that's for sure. Putting them guys behind bars for life, and he could rest in peace. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more chilling scares content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I say that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.